The ad hoc committee set up by the Kaduna State House of Assembly to investigate all finances, loans and contracts awarded by the administration of former Governor Nasir El-Rufai has recommended that the ex-governor should be investigated by appropriate law enforcement agencies for alleged diversion of funds and money laundering. Presenting its report yesterday at plenary, the chairman of the committee, Honorable Henry Zakaria, said most of the loans obtained under the El-Rufai administration did not follow due process and were not used for the purposes for which they were obtained. The committee alleged that a total of 423 billion naira was siphoned by the El-Rufai government while leaving the state with huge liabilities. The committee accused El-Rufai of breaching his oath of office and failing to exercise due discretion in the administration of the state, thereby plunging Kaduna into unwanted, unjustified and fraudulent domestic and foreign debts over and above the total loans obtained by Kaduna State from 1965 to 1999. But in a swift reaction to the committee's report, El-Rufai dismissed the allegation as scandalous, saying he served the state with integrity. Scandalous. That's what El-Rufai calls this. Says it's a political witch hunt, or could be a political witch hunt.
Interesting times. So two things. There's always a dichotomy between political witch hunt and actuality. The first question I'd like to ask, and I want to gauge scenarios. The first question I'd like to ask, if there was no brickbat and no fights between Obasani and El-Rufai, are we going to see what we're seeing? That question, we might not have an answer to it. But the current scenario is that there was a fight between these two people, or a back and forth. Let's use that word. Because if you try to extrapolate, both parties will say, oh, there was nothing, it was just a back and forth. When Obasani was talking about how the affairs of the state were being run. And he said he was going to go ahead to push it to the State House of Assembly to be able to look at the matter critically. They've gone through a committee and they've brought out this report. The report is very damning on El-Rufai. It talked about how, he got loans, how he issued out contract without following due process, how he served without due process, how he even put people in roles that were unconstitutional. They talked about his other two aides that he put in special positions, how was done, contract misappropriation was done for the Kaduna State, a media corporation or broadcasting corporation, how, Adeke was also part of this, and they also mentioned Jimmy Lawa, which has aides and all of that, and very holistic reports. And in fact, they made recommendations around calling people to come and give accounts. In fact, those that run, the state works, a bureau up to, the last person that just served the month that wasn't called up, they said action should be taken, prosecution should be taken against X, Y, Z and all of that. It was a very detailed report. But the question is, all of this, yes, is in the court of public opinion, but it is the court that will have to prove it. The Kaduna State government will then now take all of this and take it to court. Then where they will prove their case in court. El-Rufai has replied and said he served the state with a lot of integrity and all of that. He cited his own position. Yes, he has a right of reply, but now they should go and slug it out in courts. It is after the court now rules, we'll be able to take on this and say, okay, this and this and this is what happened. I don't just want it to be a conversation on the page of the newspaper. I'm saying we should take this to court because the accountability for the tax-paying people of Kaduna must be upheld. They must really know what happened in their administration. But the formative question is, if they had not had this back and forth, would all of this come out? But apart from the back and forth, if they have the actuality on the evidence, he should be taken to court, and he has his day in court. He doesn't have immunity any longer. That's my take on this.
Okay, what is the ad hoc committee of the Kaduna State House of Assembly saying, which has now been adopted at plenary? The Kaduna State House of Assembly is saying that under the watch of Nasir El-Rufai as governor of Kaduna State from May 29, 2015 to May 29, 2023. 423 billion naira were misappropriated. And that this 423 billion naira went into violations of due process, went into money laundering, went into, procurement of debts that did not follow due process, went into contracts that were awarded, and that the evidence of performance on those contracts were not seen. The Kaduna State House of Assembly has now resolved that Nasir El-Rufai, as governor, between May 2015 and May 2023, incurred debts on the top of the heads of the people of Kaduna State, more than whatever was incurred in that same state between 1965 and 2019. They are now saying, I'm trying to summarize their resolutions, that the law enforcement agencies should investigate Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who was governor between 2015 and 2023, a period of 8 years. They are saying that all the heads of parastatals and agencies within that period should be investigated. They are saying that the commissioners of finance and accountant generals who served during that period should be investigated. They went a step further. They said that Jimmy Lawal, who was senior advisor and counselor to the governor during that period, and also his senior advisor, special advisor, media and communications. That's our brother Muyiwa Adekeye. Should also be investigated. So, but all of this are the level of allegations. They say that the president, Governor Nasir El-Rufai, as he then was, violated his oath of office. But we stress the point that these are still at the level of allegations. Muyiwa Adekeye, who is the media aide to Nasir El-Rufai, has already responded that all the people who served in the Nasir El-Rufai government made themselves available before the ad hoc committee. And they made it clear that they did what was right. And he, Adekeye, speaking on behalf of Nasir El-Rufai, says, look, this is a jaundice report, this is a witch hunt, and that, in fact, this should be dismissed for the fact that it's a politically motivated hatchet job. That's what Muyiwa Adekeye tells us. But I think that what is important in the Kaduna case is that something went wrong there between the former governor and his successor, and now they are playing high wire politics. Do we expect that Nasir El-Rufai will say he's innocent? Do we expect that he will say, no, he left a very strong legacy and he served the people very well, and that the allegations are scandalous and malicious, and that he is immensely proud of his legacy, as he has pointed out? Yeah, those are things we expect him to say. But the issue now going forward is that this is in the best interest of the people of Kaduna State. If the people of Kaduna State are being told that there has been a mismanagement of resources, worse than whatever happened between 1965 to 1999, I think the people of Kaduna State will be interested. There is one man from Kaduna State, this is my brother, called Ubasani. Senator Ubasani is also, don't waste time, Senator Ubasani is likely to come up. Shehu Sani, not Ubasani, is likely to come up and say, yes, we want to know. Because this is about public interest, this is about the right of the people to know. But what everyone involved in the debacle in Kaduna State must realize is that there are two sides to the story. the Kaduna State government can say, the due process was not followed. There was a diversion of funds. Contracts were awarded without due process. There was money laundering. We are calling on investigating law enforcement agencies to go after Nasir Rufai and go after Jimmy Lawal and go after Muyiwa Adekeye, go after commissioners of finance, go after former accountant generals. They must know that that's not the only side of the story. The other people also have the right to be heard. The principle in law is audi alteram partem. So we sitting here cannot take a decision and say, oh, they have nailed Nasir Rufai. That would be an illiterate thing to say.
Wow, well, this is just the very early stages in the process, if instituted by the State House of Assembly. Following, remember that statement made by the governor of the state where he had said that the previous governor had implied that he had mismanaged government funds, but despite that, he was still going to ensure that the people of Kaduna got the fair deal. Following that very public and much talked about statement, in April of this year, earlier on April 16th, I believe, the State House of Assembly set up an ad hoc committee to investigate fully these allegations of misappropriation of funds by the previous governor of the state, who also belonged to another party, APC, and Nasir El-Rufai. Following this, we've now seen the report of that ad hoc committee, which, as has been said, adopted by plenary. And it's indicting 423 billion naira. And again, this is a report whereby the former governor has an opportunity to defend himself and to defend his years of service. In all honesty, the first response by his media aide, Mr. Adekeye, whilst condemning the report as a hatchet job, saying that, trying to defend his principle, saying that the people or the officials who worked during his government were bold enough to appear before the committee. I don't think they had any choice anyway. The committee invites you for questioning, then it is due to them to respond. But that they responded, despite the fact that they knew that it was not a fair process and that they were just going through the motions and then arrived at this conclusion. But beyond that response, what I would have expected, or what I expect, maybe because it's still early days, what I expect in the course of the investigation, number one, is that the former governor will make himself available for a full probe and investigation. Indeed, as he's asserted that his hands are clean and that he served the people with integrity, then I hope that we'll not have a rat race chasing where people are running and there are calls for invitation. And by the way, what's happening with that Kogi State matter? I hope we don't sweep that under the carpet, because this is what often happens. There's a big media trial and then it ends there. But I hope that he will make himself available for any questioning and investigation, as the House has called for law enforcement agencies to probe the matter further, and if needed, he be prosecuted if found culpable. Then beyond that, I also hope that he would give a detailed account of his time in service, because this is a huge indictment. You cannot imagine how much 423 billion naira actually you can imagine. You can begin to think in terms of the investment in infrastructure, the investment in education, the investment in security architecture in Kaduna State that suffered during his tenure in 8 years. The investment in wage bill. The wage bill in Kaduna State is not anywhere close to 423 billion naira. So there are a number of things that could have gone into. That's why it's important that beyond the rhetoric or the conversation around, oh, this is a witch hunt or not, let us investigate. If you're found innocent, then absolutely prove, it's an opportunity for him to clear his name for posterity's sake. So I hope that indeed he'll present himself for full investigation and will follow up on this case. Again, this is an opportunity to remind law enforcement agencies, and of course, I think the matter is still in court with regards to the former governor of Kogi State as well, so that all these cases will be brought to conclusion properly and not just swept under the carpet. Let's move on to our next story. Federal government yesterday maintained that a Binance Holdings Limited executive, Tigran Gambarian, had a case to answer after U.S. lawmakers accused Nigeria of taking him hostage, in their words, and urged President Joe Biden to help secure his release. 16 Republican congressmen, including Chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee Michael McCall, wrote to Biden to have the case of Gambarian referred to the Office of the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs. Bloomberg reported this. A U.S. citizen, Gambarian, is head of financial crime compliance at Binance and has been held at a prison in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, since April. The face-off between Africa's most populous country and the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange burst into view in February, when Nigerian authorities detained Gambarian and a colleague who subsequently escaped during a visit to discuss the company's compliance issues in the country. But the Nigerian Information Minister, Mohammed Idris, rejected the allegation that the Binance executive had been wrongfully detained. All right, so updates on the Binance matter, and now, of course, we've seen that the U.S. rightfully has waded in terms of trying to defend their citizen or protect their citizen. Okay,
so they will defend their citizen, but I think just want to get some house rules clear. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. Even if our leaders sometimes, let me use the local parlance, fall our hands and make us look otherwise and look petty in the face of these Western nations, Nigeria is a sovereign nation. It has a case in a court of a sovereign nation. I know they might make any push they want to make, but please, let's respect that. Do I have problems with the way they were brought in? I have strong problems with that. Do I have problems with the way we heaped our currency problems on Binance, and afterwards Binance is out of the way now, the currency challenges continue? I have a problem with that. But I also have a problem with these 16 lawmakers in America, Republican lawmakers, trying to pry into our judicial matter. I have a strong problem with that. I think the case is in court. I know the case is in court, and I know he's getting proper representation. I think it's best we see through the Nigerian legal process first. I know the U.S. needs to defend their citizens, but for me, I might be wrong on this, but it smacks as that hair of colonialism all over again. There are other people going through different cases here in our legal system. Let them go through the case. We as Nigerians, we don't pry into the legal case of Nigerians going on in other jurisdictions abroad. I mean, despite the letters of plea on the Ekweremadu case, the system in the UK still did what it had to do. And it's best people respect that. Concerning the Binance case, I mean, they're going to see through it. I mean, we've had the first debacle where somebody escaped through the prison system and went away. And I think Interpol has been able to catch up with him somewhere in Kenya. But let's face this to the very end. And for the love of mercy, the US should not be hypocritical here, because they too at some point sanctioned Binance as regards what was happening in their own economy and what Binance was doing in their own country. We respect as a US citizen here, but let's also allow our legal system take its course here. That's what I'll say on this matter.
All right, Dr. Bati.
Okay, in February, the Nigerian government arrested 2 major officials of Binance involving cryptocurrency. And the allegation was that they were complicit in issues that Nigeria was having with its foreign exchange crisis. Number one was that the fall of the Naira against the dollar, about 68%, was due to manipulations within the cryptocurrency space. And also that Nigeria, as Yemi Cardoso pointed out, lost about $26 billion. Now, 2 top executives of Binance cryptocurrency were invited for negotiations. The negotiations went all right to the extent that at the end of the day, the 2 of them were detained. One of them escaped. The only one that is left is Gambanyan. Now, Gambanyan has been in court. He was in court May 23. The case has now been postponed till, I think, June 20, which will be his next appearance in court. And in the midst of all of this, we have had his wife protesting that the husband is being maltreated by the Nigerian authorities. The one that escaped, the wife said, Nigeria was so nice. They were giving her husband food. They were treating him well. Maybe that was why that one escaped. But this one, Gambanyan, that is still here is at the Kuje Correctional Prison, expected to show up in court on June 20. But we've been told now that, oh, he has health issues, he's not feeling very well, all of that being thrown into the mix. However, the point needs to be made that Nigeria has a sovereign right to protect its own laws, to ensure that whether internal persons, citizens, indigents, or outsiders do not sabotage the economy of Nigeria. And the Office of the National Security Advisor played a major role in all of this drama, which is to say that Nigeria has an interest in defending the integrity of its own economy. Now, 16 lawmakers, in the U.S. Congress have now said, oh, this is a case of an American citizen being held hostage, and that the Office for Hostage Affairs should intervene, President Biden should intervene. I think that this is a ridiculous act of intimidation, and the Nigerian government should not succumb to blackmail. And I think that Minister of Information Mohammed Idris was quite on point when he said that, no, this is not about blackmail or hostage taking. It is about Nigeria defending its own economic interests. And I hope President Bola Tinubu will have enough balls, enough courage, enough confidence to say that in this matter, his security advisors have told him that these are people sabotaging the Nigerian economy. And after all, under the rules of international trade, international relations, trust is at the very center of international financial transactions. The way you breach that, every country has a duty to stand up for itself. That's the theory. Check the books. I'm quoting the textbook now. Now, going beyond all of that, I think that the American lawmakers, 16 of them, they are also being hypocritical. Is it not in the same United States that Sam Bankman-Fried was fried and sent to prison because of corrupt practices with cryptocurrency? Is it not in the same United States where these 16 lawmakers are protesting about Nigeria? Is it not in the same United States where Champeng Zhao of Binance, this same Binance, is currently in prison for 4 months, and Binance has been asked to pay a fine, $4.3 billion, just because in their own jurisdiction they say, no, you cannot use cryptocurrency to violate due process, to, steal, to swindle people. So what is good for the gander, what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. I think that Nigeria is on the right path, and President Tinubu should refuse to be intimidated. He must man up and say that this Gambayang and the one that is in Kenya, I think we brought somebody from Kenya the other day, that one that is in Kenya, we should get him repatriated to come and answer for his sins against the government and the economy of Nigeria.
All right, well, I know that English is not the first language of the United States of America, but a hostage is someone who has been captured by a person or organization and who may be killed or injured if people do not do what that person or organization demands. So that speaks for itself in terms of the use of the word hostage. I think it's very deliberate to try to paint a picture that their citizen was captured against his will and not facing the true matter of the fact that their citizen is simply going through a process, a judicial process in a sovereign state, which is going through the courts. What might then maybe pique the interest of the Americans would be if the process is seen to be, to not be fair, if the process is seen to be just an opportunity to pick on, if I use that word loosely, on a citizen of theirs, or he's going through an abuse of his rights. Then they can perhaps begin to have conversations diplomatically still with the Nigerian government. I hope, because the world is watching, everyone is, well, not just Nigerians, but also potential investors, that this process, because if they have a case to answer, then they should answer, let due process follow. We have the rule of law, and we have a set of procedures and processes as a nation, which must be followed. What would then be questionable is if the process is seen not to be fair, and if the judicial process is seen not to be fair, then we can begin to question the intentions or perhaps the processes of the Nigerian government. But currently it's in court. We'll see it have its day in court. And like I mentioned, I believe that this would be a signal for investors, because we've looked at the impact of the Binance executives on investors who are watching as to whether or not, these are some of the challenges that they highlight in terms of doing business in Nigeria. A judicial process that is efficient, that is fair, and is not going to victimize them or make them pay for running businesses in Nigeria. I do hope that they would, have their case in court. But again, like has already been established, Nigeria is a sovereign state. They must be willing and able to respect the rule of law. And just to, again, say this is just a letter by 16 members of the House. So they have a right to write letters to their president. But again, it would be what to then follow and Nigeria's response to this. But we do maintain that Nigeria is a sovereign state, yes.
It's the 26 billion passed through Binance Nigeria in 1 year. So I just needed to set that context for it.
Okay, you mentioned.
Yeah, it's 26 billion passed through Binance Nigeria in 1 year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that money was, it passed through just Binance Nigeria ecosystem in 1 year.
All right. Thanks for the clarification. All right. Move on to other news making the rounds this morning. Nigeria is considering suspending import duties on staple food, drugs, and other essential items for 6 months to slow inflation in Africa's most populous nation, Bloomberg reported yesterday. On the foreign scene, an Israeli airstrike on a UN school packed with hundreds of displaced people in central Gaza has killed at least 27 people. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned that Moscow could arm countries with a view to attacking Western targets. Putin made the statement while criticizing the West's delivery of long-range weapons to Ukraine. AI chip maker Nvidia's market capitalization rose to $3.019 trillion on Wednesday, nudging slightly past Apple's also $2.99 trillion market cap and making it the second largest publicly traded company in the US by that measure, just behind Microsoft's market cap of $3.15 trillion.